Suncrest College and the East Central Research Foundation have been conducting oat variety trials for grain millers from 2019 to 2023. The varieties compared have differed somewhat between the years. However, the first four varieties listed here have been present in each year. CDC Arborg, Camden, Summit, and ORE 3542 are on the grain miller's recommended list for Zone 2. Endure has also been evaluated in all 4 years, but it's not an accepted variety by grain millers yet. It's still under review. Sky and Douglas are also under review. Congsor, Ruffian, and now recently Kalo are considered acceptable varieties. Consor was evaluated in 4 of the 5 years and was originally bred for organic production. Leggett and Minstrel were only compared in 2019 and are no longer mentioned on the grain miller's recommended list. Level 48, Wesley, and Anson were only compared in 2022 and 2023. They are varieties of interest to grain millers but are not currently mentioned on their list. In 2023, they added Level 50 to the group for comparison. Here are grain millers' recommended milling oat varieties for the 2024 crop year. The list is constantly evolving with time, so make sure you have the latest information before selecting a variety to grow. In our study, environmental conditions differed substantially between years. This table shows the mean monthly temperatures and precipitation amounts for Yorkton from 2019 to 2023. Long-term averages have also been provided for comparison. 2019 was a cool year, with below-average precipitation. However, soil moisture reserves were excellent, and so were yields, averaging 175 bushels per acre. Low levels of precipitation meant leaf diseases were relatively low. You can see the crop here on July 25, 2019 is looking lush. In 2020, the summer was hot and dry. Soil moisture reserves were exhausted, and yields only averaged 70 bushels per acre. In 2021, the summer was even hotter and drier. Again, yields only averaged 70 bushels per acre, and you can see the crop is short and is already starting to turn color by July 19th in 2021. Not looking very lush. In 22, the summer was warm and rainfall was above average, ending the 2-year drought. Unfortunately, some of that precipitation came in the form of hail on June 23rd. The hail event was significant, but the crop still managed to produce 140 bushels per acre in the end. This is the trial 1 day before the hail event. Fortunately, the crop was seeded on the later side, May 24th, and wasn't overly advanced when the hail hit. Thus, it was able to recover fairly well. In 23, the year was again hot and dry. Soil moisture reserves were enough to produce 101 bushel per acre crop on average. I'm going to show you a series of tables that are all put together in a similar fashion to this one. For each year, the varieties are listed from highest to lowest for the parameters being measured. This table shows the lodging readings for 2021 and 2019. I haven't bothered to show you all the years because lodging was negligible for the years not shown. In this study, lodging was never severe enough for any variety to have a substantial impact on yield. However, there are some significant differences between varieties. A rating of 0 means the crop was standing straight and tall. A rating of 9 means the crop was flat to the ground like a pancake. In 2019, Leggett and Ruffian lodged significantly more than the other varieties. Leggett is only rated as having good resistance to lodging based on regional trials. In 21, Summit lodged significantly more than all other varieties. Again, Summit only has a rating of good for lodging resistance. Here's the yield data for the varieties grown in each year. As mentioned earlier, Arborg, Camden, Summit, and 3542 were grown in every year, and all these varieties are on the recommended list for grain millers in Zone 2. Remember, in each year, all these varieties are listed from highest to lowest yielding. I've color-coded the varieties so you can quickly determine their rankings relative to each other. If you take these varieties for each year and turn their yields into a percentage relative to Camden as a check, and then average them over the years, you will find Arborg comes out as the highest yielding variety and 3542 as the lowest yielding variety. This is pretty similar to the information you'll find from the regional data. However, if you look at their relative rankings by year, Arborg certainly did not yield the most, nor did 3542 the least in every year. The relative yield potential between varieties varied a lot between years. Between 2019 and 2020, Arborg and 3542 have completely changed their relative ranking. Here's the data for the test weights. Again, varieties with the highest test weights are at the top within each year. Test weights which fall below 245 grams per half a liter are subject to discounts, and test weights that fall below 230 grams per half a liter will be rejected for milling. Test weights were good for most varieties in 2019, 2020, and 2022. In 2021, test weights were quite poor, with varieties listed from Endure and down falling below an acceptable level for milling. One might initially think that test weights were reduced by the drought in 21. However, you'll recall that in 2020, there was also a drought, and test weights were very high in that year for all varieties. So I have no idea whether drought typically causes low or high test weights. In 23, test weights from level 48 and downward fell to discount levels, but all varieties were still acceptable for milling. Excepting 2019, Summit usually had one of the highest test weights, and Camden one of the lowest. This is well supported by past research and information provided by the regional trials. Despite the low test weight of CS Camden, it has been a popular variety to grow, and grain millers have had few issues regarding test weights with this variety. It's been suggested to me that producers may be blowing more fine seed out the back of their combines than we do in our small plot work, and this may account for the lower test weights we generally observe. Whether this is true or not is unclear to me. Here are the relative maturity ratings. Of the varieties on the recommended list, differences in maturity were small, even between varieties with long versus medium maturity ratings. They were also inconsistent between years. Keep in mind, the majority of the years in this study have been hotter than the historical average, and this will reduce the extremes of maturity between varieties. For varieties of interest to grain millers, Anson and Wesley were the highest yielding varieties during the hail year of 22 and the moderately droughted year of 23. They were also shorter varieties, with Anson being the shortest variety of all. Any added lodging resistance due to short stature could not be determined, as lodging was not a significant issue in either 22 or 23. In 2023, grain protein was measured, and these high-yielding varieties also had the lowest protein. I suppose we could have anticipated this, as high yields tend to dilute protein for all cereals. In this study, Anson had a very low test weight, 2 years running. However, like I said before, the low test weight of Camden doesn't seem to be a cause for rejection for the producer. Conclusions. Of the varieties on grain millers' recommended list, Arborg has the highest yield, but it's not consistent every year. Summit usually had the highest test weight, but it's more prone to lodging. Camden had the lowest test weight, but this isn't proving to be a problem for growers commercially. ORE 3542M was often lower yielding, but it happens to have resistance to crown rust. Of the varieties of interest for grain millers, Wesley was high yielding with a decent test weight. Anson was also high yielding, but it had a low test weight. Again, thanks to grain millers for supporting these trials.